understand when writing your report that any report that will undermine the operation of the security agencies is what? Undermining national security. Any report that will undermine the security of this nation. Let me give you an example. When America, during the war, how many of you know that Roosevelt was handicapped during that war? The American media did not report that. The average American media will never ever report any issue that will undermine the security of America. Because as far as they are concerned, America is everything. If you watch American films, America has never been defeated in any war. Why in Nigeria? A practical example is you read on the pages of Nigerian newspapers the movement of Nigerian troops. The movement of Nigerian troops, the operational details of the Nigerian military, thereby compromising national security. And we cannot live in Nigeria if Nigeria is at war today. All of us are in trouble, just like we are experiencing it now. I'm a victim of what is happening in Maiduguri. I had to leave Maiduguri for a year. And who ferried me to safety? It was the military. I had to call up the current geospatial chief. He was the one that connected me with the chief of intelligence in Maiduguri, who was responsible for my escape from Maiduguri for a complete year. I was not in Maiduguri. So please, we should delineate between national security and the so-called, is it public interest? Yeah, public interest, agreed, people have an interest. But then, you should prioritize national interest. Sorry, national security over public interest. Because when you compromise national security, you're compromising public interest too. Because there will be no country for that public to live in. Thank you.
Questions. However, I think you are talking about national security or your national interest. National interest. National interest is anything that has to do with the overall well-being of the Nigerian state and its people. It could be economic, it could be security, it could be medical, it could be anything. And to a large extent, unlike national security, which I will come to, is determined, the national interest is determined by the people because there's a value system that we hold dear and we respect it. And I can give you an example. When the issue of gay and lesbian marriage comes up, you know, Nigeria refused to legislate on it and disagree. That is a typical example of national interest. We know we are risking sanctions by the Western countries and all the rest, but because it's against our culture, interests, and tradition, we decided to damn the consequences. That is an example. So basically, when you are talking about national interest, who's president? But if you are gay, definitely you will not agree with it. But the overwhelming majority of Nigerian society disagree with it. So we have no choice. The majority always have their way, and even though the minority will have their say. I'm just giving. There are so many other examples of national interest. So it is what the people have agreed upon. Agreed we are diverse, but we have so much in common. Take for instance, even corruption. You know, every culture abhors corruption. I mean, stealing is also part of national interest. So whether you are a petty thief or you are, billionaire thief, it's against the national interest. There are so many examples. So you should know. So anything that is that promotes that is against national interest. Now, Gloria, USMAN, comrade. But somebody told me you have committed class suicide. Oh, you are still a comrade. You are still a comrade. Okay. Well, the national security, practical example of national security. First and foremost, you need to look at the national security strategy signed by the immediate past president in December 2019. The definition of national security is there. And of course, you know, it's now being broadened to encompass all those things that take, for instance, security is not physical security or state security, but even when the citizens are hungry, it's national security issue. I hope you understand. So, this issue of practical example, and that is why they are talking about food security, and that is why they are talking about dealing with the issue of insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping, because they will disturb our agricultural system, and it will affect our food security. So automatically, that is practical example of national security. Because if we are all hungry, and I believe we are all, you know, way back in the 80s where Michael Jackson and all the rest, they sang this thing, "We Are the World." You know, the world has to rally around Ethiopia because they are so hungry. So you can understand that's a practical example. And another example is insurgency. The fact that it is happening in the Northeast, it has the corresponding effect on other places. Let me give you an example, just to tell you how security, how all these things are interrelated. There was a time, I think, two stragglers in the military, I believe you understand, and security forces, you know what is straggler, and a soldier roaming about aimlessly. Two of them went to NUJ Secretariat in Yola. For whatever reason, they started opening their mouth. And of course, I know they came from a particular battalion that was sent on peacekeeping operation. And the peacekeeping operation was not a UN mandated peacekeeping operation, either ECOWAS or African Union. They don't pay as at when due. So they were not paid their allowances, so they came back to the country after the expiry of their tour of duty. Of course, the military was looking for more boots on the ground in Northeast. They marshaled the battalion to the Northeast, so they were disgruntled. Anybody that knows the pattern of peacekeeping operations, sometimes you are so happy to go there, despite the risk, because your economy will be enhanced. But here you are, you have not been given the money, and you have been sent to another theater of operation. So they went with that mindset. They went on a wall, they started talking. Of course, the reporter decided to carry a frontline story. All is not well in the Northeast. Military will down tools because of non-payment of allowance. I called him. I said, look, in fact, I became rude and unethical. I said, I wish when Boko Haram captured Numan, they were able to capture Yola. You wouldn't have been talking the way you are talking. Now, how could two people out of this number of people making sacrifice, and in fact, a corporal will determine this kind of story? Because I got phone calls from not only Maiduguri and elsewhere, but even Kano. They said they were relocating to Lagos because if the military are not paid, they are not safe. So you can see how the relationship is. This thing happened. Then if you are talking about another example, was when Baga failed the last time. You know, there was a time military marshaled resources in Mongunum. They wanted to recapture Baga. Now, one of the newspapers, their correspondent is here among us here, came out with a front page story with schematics. Behold, the military is marshalling resources to go and capture Baga. What are they telling Boko Haram? They are telling them that we prepare, these people are coming. So, then the third example was when Nigeria was trying to, oust Yahya Jammeh when he refused to concede defeat in the election. Nigeria decided to send a battalion. One of the newspapers wrote a front page story. Nigeria is sending a battalion to Gambia. Invariably, you are telling Yahya Jammeh that was trained in Jaja that, because you used to say in the military, the enemy is equally trained. We are both Anglophone countries, so the tactics, the training was the same. The ratio of is what? 1 to 3, right? So if you are sending a battalion, if Yahya Jammeh wanted to be mischievous, all he has to do is range a brigade against your people. They will be dead meat. That is issue number one. Those of you that have been trespassing West African countries, you know that there are quite a number of Nigerians doing trades and businesses. By the time they want to turn against them, all they will have to do, just like Nigeria is blackmailing you, saying that it is not ECOWAS, it is Nigeria, or France that is instigating you, they will lose their lives, they will lose their businesses. It happened in Ghana. So you can understand the issue or the practical of national security. You can imagine if people, and that is why we have to commend the efforts of the security forces for trying to make Nigeria safe and secure. Because I can rest assure you, no country in the world that can contend with refugees from Nigeria. None. At least not in African continent. So you can understand. So these are the ways that you can look at it from that perspective. And of course, by the way, you are in NGOs. What is the research pattern of something being the truth? In most cases, it's 3 newspapers publication, right? Either wrongly or rightly. By the time 3 newspapers write the story. But I can tell you one practical example. There was a day, I think I was Director of Army Public Relations, on a Sunday like that, shortly after 2015, the Shiite debacle. There was a front page story. Below, the Chief of Army Staff, Nigerian Army, with his flamboyant convoy, bigger than that of the President, he was passing along Olusegun Obasanjo way, and he passed in front of a church, they turned him back. Now, that Sunday, I swear to God that created me. I was in the house of the Chief of Army Staff. He was indisposed. He did not calm down. Talk less of leaving his house, talk less of leaving the house. Those of you who knows Abuja very well, nobody, not even you, Chairman. No, sincerely speaking, I want a hand, somebody who knows Abuja. Very good. You know Abuja very well. Good. Do you know Olusegun Obasanjo way? Where does it start from? It starts from Earth and Center, Cyprian Equancy House, right? What are the prominent landmarks? Post office on your left, AMAC on your right, Ghanaian and Chinese embassy on your left, Ministry of Defense, Bolungo Hotel, what do you call the other mega filling station? AP, NAFDAC, NNPC. What? As of today afternoon, there is no chapter on that street. But how do you make up with this story? Somebody in Canada will believe this. This thing happened. I can go on and on. So basically, these are the practical examples, and they have corresponding effect. The whole idea is they wanted to say, okay, the Chief of Army Staff trampled on Muslims. Here are Christians now worshipping, and they sent him away. So you can understand the implication. You can see what we are talking about, this information disorder. Ordinarily, an average Muslim would feel bad that he has killed his brother, and now here are Christians, they have sent him. So no matter what he does, they will say he's being biased, and so on. So these are the kind of example. Is it?
Thank you very much, sir. Can we appreciate the